So the mismatch is you go to the doctor and the doctor's like, oh, you're having a panic attack driving on the highway. We'll just do some breath work. And then the person's like, don't tell me to breathe. That's not going to work. And then the doctor's like, well, maybe take a Xanax. Oh, by the way, you can't drive when you're on a Xanax. And so it's a mismatch. So I have people that are like, I've been given the option to talk myself out of it, to breathe, or to take a benzo. None of these are good options. So the specificity that's given to us with the 9 types of anxiety can work miracles.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Teach Through Love, where I show you how to create teachable moments with your kids. I'm Lori Petro. Today's episode is very special. It's near and dear to my heart. It's something that I have dealt with personally. My family has had challenges with. You may have. It's something that many of our kids, many of our families struggle with, and that is anxiety. But today's episode is very special because we're going to go beyond just managing anxiety and talk about tips for real lasting solutions. My guest today is Dr. Nicole Cain. She is the author of Panic Proof. And I can't wait for you to hear this conversation. It was so very informative. Dr. Nicole Cain is the author of the acclaimed book, Panic Proof. She's a leading expert in trauma-informed and integrative approaches for mental and emotional wellness. She has a degree in clinical psychotherapy, training in EMDR, and a license as a naturopathic physician in the state of Arizona. And her approach to mental health, which I love, is multidisciplinary. It's medical, psychological, and holistic. I know that you're going to love this talk. We got to cover so much. In fact, we didn't actually have enough time, so we're going to come back for part 2 to wrap it up. But right now, I hope you enjoy part 1 with Dr. Nicole Cain. Well, let me just say that I'm so excited to have you here. Dr. Nicole Cain, welcome.
Thank you. I'm super pumped to get to spend some time with you and your audience.
I have to first say that when I was watching some of your videos and I saw the book on the screen before I received it, and I was like, oh, this is great. And I thought it was going to be like half the size. Maybe you can't even tell. But when I got the book, I was like, oh my gosh, this isn't just like a read through, sit down. This is a manual. This is something that you refer back to over and over again. It's Panic Proof, the new holistic solution to end your anxiety forever. I love it. So go out and get it, everybody. We're going to talk all about it. I can't wait to hear. Honestly, I might, if you're open, I might have to have you back again because there's so much.
Yes, yeah, I would love that.
Sure. Awesome. Wonderful. So let's just start. What I love about this book is that it so resonated with me because you like to go for the root cause.
Yes.
You're not about just the symptomatic, like that's good to notice, but you really were talking so much in this book about root causes. So when I looked at it, it was twice the size for a very good reason, because anxiety is not so simple, right? You really talk about that anxiety, like so much that it doesn't live in our minds, all of these things. Let's just start with how you came about wanting to write the book. What made this so important?
I grew up doing science, and I have an undergrad in psychobioneuroimmunology. I went to medical school. I did breast cancer research at Baylor College of Medicine. I love science. And when we think about the scientific process, it largely gets ignored when it comes to treating our mental health and our anxiety. In fact, the prominent way that anxiety has been treated since the 1960s is pharmaceuticals and talk therapy, despite the fact that research shows that for many people, those are palliative at best, and that there are a lot of other treatments that work. And so I started to ask questions. I started to ask, really, is anxiety caused by a chemical imbalance? Turns out the answer is largely no.
And when I was growing up, that is what we were told. Like when I was in my teens, this is what we were told.
Same.
And I was shamed with too, I think.
Shamed with. I think we grew up in the same family, it sounds like. Anxiety is because you have a chemical imbalance You can't do anything about it. It's lifelong, and you need to take these prescriptions. And that was the narrative I was given growing up.
Mm.
And I grew up in a family that was very much of the mentality of just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You're just going to have to suffer through it. And also, it means that you're broken. And also, you need to go to the authority in the white coat and get your treatment so the rest of us can deal with y'all.
Like creating a cycle of more anxiety because you're
Yes.
not good enough now. Now you're broken.
Yes. Yeah. And even now, it's 2025 when you and I are having this conversation. And even now, if we go to dominant publications like HealthNet or MD Consult or GoodRx, like these different places that have education on anxiety, you're going to see this myth propagated. You're going to see the myth that anxiety is a part of the human experience and we just largely have to manage it. And that is lazy science.
Yeah.
And it isn't scientifically accurate. It isn't scientifically true. And the research proves it. And what the mission of this book is to really reset the conversation about anxiety, take away the stigma and give people back the power and change the conversation from anxiety is a normal part of the human experience, you have to live with it, to symptoms of anxiety are your body's messages about what needs healing and how.
I love that.
And that's a fundamentally different conversation, and that gets us fundamentally different results.
It does. And you really have built a step-by-step system to kind of address this. But even before I get ahead of myself, what you're saying so resonates, and I think it will resonate with the people in my audience as well, because so many of us were told to see anxiety as purely mental health, like you were saying, right? It's in your mind, and it doesn't have anything to do with perhaps gut health, sensory issues, hormones. You bring up so many different areas that this can be, that the root cause can be attributed to. And it's not just like, oh, fix your mind, because that's such a
Right.
simple, ridiculous kind of solution that doesn't get anywhere. Can you just, and this is really, really huge again for parents, because I know that we worry so much about our children's mental health right now. And so many of our kids, like even just going through your book, there were so many things that I didn't just resonate with as a child growing up, but as a mom and watching, I have a now young adult daughter. So we went through so much, those middle school years and all of the stuff that happens in high school and all of the different changes and challenges that come with that. And if we just say, oh, it's all in your mind, we just cut ourselves off from finding real solutions. So you talk about, I don't know if you can even snapshot this because there's so much information, but you talk about the 9 types of anxiety. Can you give us like a little picture of what that might look like and how that shows us that it's not just a mental thing?
Yes,
Okay.
I love this. Thank you for asking that question. The 9 types of anxiety is so important for two main reasons. One is that it helps us as researchers and human beings understand the many ways that our body communicates to us. And the second is by having the specificity of the 9 types of anxiety, we can use treatments that work better. It's kind of like if you have a baby that's crying, if you have no idea all of the different reasons a baby might cry, the things that you do to try to soothe the baby may not be as effective.
Right.
So it's the same with what are all these signs and symptoms and clues from the body, and how can we arrange them in ways that make sense in terms of testing, research, and treatment? And that's how we're getting better results. So I'll go through really quickly, and those for like, oh my gosh, I want to know this better. I have a free quiz
Oh,
on
great. I
my
was gonna say there's a
website.
quiz in the book, right?
Yeah,
See which, yes.
there's a quiz in the book, so get the book,
Get the
panic
book.
proof. If you want to, if you're like listening to this right now and you just want to like you haven't bought the book yet or haven't read it, then you could do it for free on drnicolecain.com. But the quiz will get you there. And so the 9 types. So the first is if your anxiety really shows up in your thoughts, you find yourself future tripping, worrying, maybe your brain is foggy, forgetful, mom brain, big thing, anxiety brain. I felt put on the spot and I lost all my words, OCD. This is autonomic arousal. This is stress in the body showing up in the thoughts. That's thought anxiety. The second one is nervous system. Nervous system is blood pressure. Nervous system is muscles. So some of us, my husband is like this. The more stressed he gets, the more his shoulders rise and he looks like Lurch from Addams Family, right? And I'm like, "Oh man, you're stressed. It's
You are,
all in
yeah,
his
like let's
muscles."
release that.
Yeah, release it. Your kids may complain, my head hurts. I just feel achy. So they may want a massage or a rub. That could be a sign of stress, anxiety, fear, panic. Then there's chest anxiety. And so if you feel that, have you ever felt like that elephant sitting on your chest, that dread, that fear, or perhaps your heart palpates? It feels like it's like skipping a beat. Maybe there's butterfly wings in your heart, or it's pounding and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. My heart is just pounding. Or some people, they feel like, I just can't get a breath. And you've probably seen Seinfeld, all these TV shows. They get the brown paper bag to hyperventilate in, right? That's chest anxiety. Gut anxiety. This is one of the number one kinds of anxiety I see, especially in kids, is my tummy hurts. You get that too. Yeah,
Constant. And no one knew like what to do with me because they just thought
yeah,
really I was faking it. Oh, you're trying
yeah,
to get out of doing the dishes. Oh, you're
yeah,
trying to get out. And it was like
yeah.
they're
The
very real. Yeah.
The gut knows, right? And what's been really neat in the last decade is that by looking at the gut specifically as it relates to our mental health, it opened up so much opportunity in exploring the gut-brain axis, in exploring our microbiome, in exploring the vagus nerve. And now we have polyvagal theory and psychobiotics. And it's just because we were curious about, is there something to me feeling sick to my stomach when I'm stressed? The answer
I
is yes.
I can't believe that it's taken us this long.
Yeah.
I mean, even I remember almost 20 years ago going to my very first I was doing a parent education session with a private, and I almost didn't make it because my stomach was like, nope, you are
Yeah.
not, this is not. And that was always my symptom. But kids don't know that. Like kids don't realize that. And then parents think, oh, you're just, you'll be fine. Or they, for no pun intended, but they poo-poo it away and they don't think that it is serious. And it really is a very physical manifestation of the anxiety, is what I'm hearing, right? We're
Absolutely.
validating that for so many people.
And that happened to me. And my doctor gave me Prilosec, the purple pill that's a PPI. And that will cause its own domino effect that will then feed back into anxiety. And we can get into all of those dominoes and those feedback loops on how many of our symptoms as adults were, the word is iatrogenic. In medicine, iatrogenic refers to when a symptom or a disease is caused by medical treatment. So I was
And creating
stressed.
the cycle of
Yes, I
re-stressing yourself.
exactly. And so we have to look at what are the obstacles to cure. We have to look at what might be preventing me from getting better, right? So gut anxiety will give us clues in that. We could totally dive into gut anxiety. So we talked about thought, we talked about nervous system, we talked about chest, we talked about gut, and then there's endocrine anxiety. Girls, PMS,
Mm.
postpartum, menopause, men have andropause, boys go through puberty, our hormones, our sex hormones. But then let's also look at thyroid, let's look at cortisol. What are the hormones doing? They're talking to the nervous system, they're talking to the gut, they're talking to your immune system. So then we have next, as you probably anticipated, is immune system anxiety. Do you ever get allergies? Because I know I sure do.
My everyone in my family but me has severe allergies.
Okay, that's such a gift. Yay. And for those who are in your family and for those who are listening and myself, is that same neurochemical that causes the scratchy voice, the itchy, watery eyes, the runny nose, the postnasal drip, the hives, the rash, the food reactivities. Histamine is as stimulating to the nervous system as adrenaline. So immune system
Not
anxiety.
talking enough about
It's wild, right?
it's so wild to me,
Yeah.
especially when like you can just you're describing
Yeah.
exact symptoms of people that mean a lot to me, which is really
Yeah.
important. Okay, I don't want to interrupt because I know you've got.
There's just a few more. There's anger anxiety. So if sometimes people they're told, oh, you've anger problems, you need anger management, it could actually be that they're frightened and afraid. And the treatment for that is very different than telling them you're bad for being angry, do
Oh,
something different.
that's so interesting because we always talk about in classes how anger, what's underneath that? Is it sadness? Is there some, what is there that grief there? Because we can't move past that anger until we really start to unpack it. And you're saying that it's also
Fear.
contributing to all of that dysregulation that we feel.
Yeah, yeah. And then they talk about fight, flight, freeze. The fight and fight, flight, freeze, it comes out as that anger.
How it comes out.
Yeah. So then the last two are depressive anxiety and trauma anxiety. And depressive anxiety is what it sounds like is sometimes we could feel really fearful and we future trip and we're anxious, but then also we feel like we feel like we're a bad person. We feel worthless. We feel depressed. And so they can mix together. And then trauma anxiety is really truly trauma is the umbrella that is the root of everything, I would argue. But I separated out for those people that my anxiety, my panic attacks started during this event. And I've never been the same since. And I have intrusive thoughts about it. I have nightmares about it. I have flashbacks about it. And it's important to know that because that's where we start. We also may want to work on the gut and the immune system and coping skills, but really, truly, in those cases, we start with trauma treatment focused. And those
You
are,
know that I mean, that person is saying, self-reporting, this is where it
yes.
began. So you can really start there as a beginning. But with our kids, all of this is so helpful because we're kind of doing an investigation with them. We're slowly unpacking, okay, what could this be? So for anybody even listening, if you see your kid feeling dysregulated, maybe think, what is one area in those that you just mentioned? Is there an anger, something going on? Do they have a trauma history? Maybe I work with a lot of families that have foster and adoptive children. So they sometimes come with their own history that the parents they don't know, or they don't haven't yet fully understood how that manifests in the child's behavior and things. So these are all just so if you're watching, I was going to say just jot down one area where your child's dysregulation that anxiety might be coming from, but isn't just, oh, you think they're on this they're worrying too much. Like we just simplify it into one easy feeling that we think they might be having, and it really has so many root causes.
I have a thought about that to add even more value to the kiddo is that anxiety. So our bodies will whisper to us and be like, hey, we're getting a little stressed. You may notice like a little flutter in your tummy or a little shortness of your breath, or maybe your thoughts are kicking up a little bit. And if we don't hear that, or the cause or the causes of that dysregulation accumulate, the body will get louder and louder.
Okay.
And so, something that we could do with our kids is to help them have more mindful awareness of what their canaries are. So, I had this little guy, I worked with him. He was on antidepressants, he was on antipsychotics, he was on stomach pills, he was on all sorts of medications, just this little guy. And he was having these rage attacks where he would destroy the living room. He kicked over this huge flat screen TV, destroyed it, and the mom and the other kid had to lock themselves in the bedroom. And they're like, he goes from 0 to 60. But what we ended up finding is that when he started noticing his body getting hot, whether it's because the room got hot or he got hot because he was getting activated,
So physically hot, not
yeah,
just like, oh, I'm hot mentally, I'm getting angry. You mean physically
physically,
hot.
Yes, he started noticing, oh, if I get physically hot, whether again by like the house is too hot or I'm overheating because I'm upset, is if he could go to the freezer, get ice, drink ice water, go outside, put his feet in the pool, that almost 100% of the time would stop him from progressing into a rage attack. And
Wow.
so,
Just by cutting off when he
yeah,
noticed the first.
yeah.
Is that where you refer in the book to the spectrum of anxiety?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
So it
yeah,
was kind of like a red light, green light
yes.
progression, right? Okay. Yes.
Yeah. And it's cool because it can show up anywhere. Our bodies are always creatively individually telling us what they need. And so when we can teach our kids, like, you're not broken. Your tummy is just talking to you. You're just nothing wrong with you. Your heart is just doing what it's designed to do when it thinks it's under stress. Let's learn how to listen from compassion and curiosity and then be empowered to know what to do.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Because you really do highlight that we're not trying to push panic away or push the symptoms away, even. We want to like invite them in and understand them.
Yeah. And
Right.
I really have to give a shout out to the creators of Inside Out, that wonderful movie.
Yes, yes. I
Because
remember seeing it the first one in the movie theater and it was like, oh, this is perfect. Like this is just, can we show everybody emotional intelligence now?
yes, it was so good because then it can help us because this comes from parts work, internal family systems, which is one unique way of approaching it. But we've really been doing this for a long time with EMDR and hypnosis and ego state work. But what I really love about it is it gives a little bit of concrete structure to people to understand the different parts of themselves and how they all work together to create our lived human experience, and how these parts of ourselves are really just doing the best they can to help us adapt to what happened to us, what's happening to us, or what didn't happen to us, or what isn't happening to us. And we could think about trauma and neglect and all those different dynamics. And so, what I really love about that is that a child can then have this experience, and maybe we can anthropomorphize it and we can say, oh, is that the tummy part? Is your tummy talking to you? Well, what is it saying? And we can start to practice being curious because we know from the research that what we deny will amplify and what we suppress will express. And what that means is that when we learn to try to suppress our anxiety, avoid our anxiety, try to distract from our anxiety, that if that root cause of the anxiety is now being ignored or not addressed, the body, those parts,
Mm.
are going to get louder and say, hey, we're the crying baby. We're hungry. Just feed us. It's all we want. No, no,
Please
no.
notice us.
Yeah, just notice us, right? And so then kids can be like, oh, my tummy part is telling me we're hungry, or we're telling me we're worried. So I can talk to mom and dad about that.
Which does so much more than just for anxiety, because if the child knows that, oh, I'm getting hungry, then they're not going to get mad or go over and push their sibling because they don't realize that they need protein.
Yeah,
But if they recognize that gurgle in their tummy or whatever it is, their blood sugar, maybe they start to feel like they want
yeah,
to sit down or like we teach them all of that. We avoid so much. Now, you
yeah.
talked about these parts, and I'm not very familiar with internal family systems, but I'm wondering, just to revisit you talk about your history in the book a little bit, and you
Mhm.
talk about how you became, I think, a people pleaser.
Yeah.
But is that kind of what you mean by those parts where you sort of take on these individual identities to make up for the or to handle the experience that you're having? Is that what that is?
Yes. Oh, what an intuitive question. Is our symptoms are adaptations. And then those adaptations can get stuck and then become a maladaptation. So let's break that apart.
Okay.
So if you live in, let's say, northern Michigan in the winter, they have so much cold and snow that they have two sets of mailboxes, one that's close to the ground and then one that's like many feet higher. So when
Oh
there's
wow.
snow, they can still get to the mailbox, right? So you will adapt to cold in northern Michigan by putting on a coat. That coat is warm, it protects you, it's life-saving. But then let's say that you're like, I'm out of here, I'm going to move to Florida. And now you and your coat have gone to Florida and it's summertime. So that adaptation, if that adaptation doesn't continue to shift and change and it gets stuck, wearing a coat in Florida will make you feel pretty unwell.
I
It
love that.
becomes a maladaptation, right? And so what we want to do in terms of our lived experiences is look at what is this an adaptation to? And so my experience, and I write about this, like you said, is I grew up in a very stressed household with parents that were too young probably to be parents, and they recycled a lot of authoritarian parenting strategies. And then comes into this world a very hyper attuned little girl who wants to please her parents largely for her survival. So when we're little kids, kids will often learn if I do this, my caretaker smiles and then I'm safe. And if I do something that makes them frown, then I'm bad. So I adapted, as many of us do, to my parents, and I felt like my role was to please them and to take care of them. And I got good at that by noticing behaviors and nuances, very hyper vigilant, very hyper attuned. So that coat that I put on was really helpful when I was a little girl. It was life-saving, probably in many ways. But then I'm in medical school, and this teacher turned to me one day. This was a real moment for me. And he said, Dr. Cain, you know one thing I love about you? And I said, oh my gosh, someone likes me. Yes, yes, yes. People pleasing. What is it? I've been doing so good. And he said, you never say no. And I was like, ooh, I don't know if that feels good. I don't know if that feels right. And I put that in my pocket for a little while. And then a few years later, during the epic crumbling of the phoenix, as it were, I started to ask myself questions about how are my adaptations to my childhood stuck and how are they holding me back now? Well, I'm anxious in relationships. I feel like a perfectionist. I'm trying to please everybody. I'm always feeling like a failure. And noticing that I had the opportunity to look at those patterns, those behaviors, those coping skills, and reinvent them. And
Mm.
so that's an example of an adaptation. And our stomachs can adapt. Or our hormones can adapt. Let's talk about hormones for a second. If you go through a huge amount of stress, like a pandemic, let's say, right? When we're under a lot of stress, the body's like, I got you, boo, male or female, adult or kid. The body's like, I got you. We're under stress. We're going to mount a stress response just in case there's tigers. We've evolved. We've got this. We're going to make more cortisol. And when under stress, we don't want to reproduce. You don't want to have babies when there's stress and danger in your village, right? So now our cycles are longer, our periods become irregular, our thyroid gets downregulated because our cortisol is higher. We're going into just survival mode. And then, as our cortisol is high, now our immune system is suppressed. And as our immune system is suppressed, we're coping by eating sugary things, dopamine things, and opportunistic infections come in. And then you're like, I get sick every time my kids get sick. Why am I getting the sniffles all the time? I had COVID 4 times this year. Why? And then those opportunistic infections, they make a home, they change the pH of your gut, they change your gut microbiome. Then they start to create inflammation in the bowels. That inflammation leaks out, irritates the blood-brain barrier, leaky gut, leaky brain, and now we have neuroinflammation, right? So we have this whole process that started as a coat, as an adaptation, that was stuck in Florida as a maladaptation.
Wow. Wow. And for people with complex trauma, this is really how we kind of adapted. It was evolutionary,
Yeah,
necessary for our survival.
yeah,
So even, and I do love that you frame everything, all of these things as protective. These are
yeah,
not bad things that happened. Yes, they may not serve us, but these were things that our bodies did to protect us, to help us
Yeah.
survive in those moments. But then it kind of didn't just affect, it wasn't just seeing that experience and having it, it then affected multiple systems in the body is kind
Yeah.
of how what I'm hearing.
Exactly. And so why would we just stop at, let me give you an antidepressant and send you to a talk therapist to logic yourself out of it? It
Which
just doesn't make sense.
it
That's
doesn't.
it kind of brings us full circle back to the beginning of the conversation about how we can do better.
Yes, and I want to talk about some of the actual ways that we can stop panic and anxiety in the moment. But I also want to just really briefly touch on the fact that I know in the book that you talked about having the first aid match the symptom, because just like what you're saying, if we're giving antidepressants to a hormonal imbalance, let's say, that's creating the stress, then we're not really going to get anywhere. So how is it that that symptoms are kind of mismatched with the treatment that we're giving it often? And what do we do? What is one of those first tools that, and actually we had someone write in and ask a question. They said, they read your book and that they loved it. And she wanted to
Yay.
know what you did. What are a couple of examples from your own life where you struggled with the panic and anxiety? And then what were your go-to tools or hacks to regain the calm in those most difficult moments? So that piece, and then of course the mismatch of maybe the symptom and the treatment. Those are my next two questions.
Oh my goodness, I love that. Yeah, because you'll go to, let's say that you need to drive your kids to school, but you have to drive along a highway and you get panic attacks on this particular highway, right? And you can't panic when you have your kids in the car and you're driving on a highway. Sometimes you just have to deal with it in the moment.
This was actually something that was happening to a friend of mine like 10 years ago, and she couldn't drive on the highway. So I'm so curious to see what you say right now.
So
It's
common.
so
I get
interesting.
so many calls about this. Yeah. So the mismatch is you go to the doctor and the doctor's like, "Oh, you're having a panic attack driving on the highway. We'll just do some breath work." And then the person's like, "Don't tell me to breathe. That's not going to work." And then the doctor's like, "Well, maybe take a Xanax. Oh, by the way, you can't drive when you're on a Xanax." And so it's a mismatch. So people that are like, I've been given the option to talk myself out of it, to breathe, or to take a benzo. None of these are good options. So the specificity that's given to us with the nine types of anxiety can work miracles. An example of that is I had a woman and she traveled for work. She was a really high level C-suite executive and she was terrified on planes. She would cry, she'd panic, and it was just horrible. So she would take a Xanax given to her by her psychiatrist, and then she'd get there, and then she wasn't able to perform. She wasn't able to function. She was like a zombie. So, what we did to manage it in the moment, of course, we're doing all this root cause stuff. She had a lot of trauma. We're doing the trauma work, but you just need something in the moment to get through, right? So, she took the nine types of anxiety quiz. We assessed her, and she had chest anxiety. Her heart was just pounding and pounding. It started with pounding of her heart. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to have a heart attack. Can the person next to me hear it? It's so bad." And so we're like, okay, the body's communicating the loudest in this acute situation in the chest. What if we tried a beta blocker? Not something that just zombied you out, not something that sedated
That's for the
you.
heart specifically, blockers. Is that what they are?
Thank you for asking. A beta blocker is something that stops the heart from beating so fast, like propranolol.
Okay.
And so they can be prescribed off label for chest anxiety. And so she took 10 milligrams of propranolol before flying, and then her heart didn't beat so hard, and she was so much better. So now she's like, okay, I'm not afraid of the fear because I have a tool that I can use that actually works for my specific experience of anxiety so that I have that confidence while I'm doing the inner work. Because that person that's asking the question is like, well, what do I do if I'm driving in the car and I have a panic attack or I need a tool in the moment? Is
Mhm.
you want to figure out what kind of anxiety you're experiencing at its worst in that panicky moment. And then you want to pick a treatment that's appropriate for that. So let's use a different example. Let's say that when you're driving in the car, and it's like that little guy that I was talking about, is your anxiety hits you and it's nervous system, and you get this flush of heat and overwhelm. And the first thing you need to do is roll down the windows because if you get hot, you're going to panic. If you get too hot, you're going to panic. This is pitta anxiety. This is an Ayurveda. We call it pitta anxiety or hot. So I teach about a panic pack. So in this example, you would reach over, you would grab your panic pack. It's ideally next to you in the seat or in the little console right in your armrest there. And then there's this thing the size of your phone. You shake it up. It gets cold when you shake it up, and then you put it on your head, the back of your neck. If you're not driving, it'll work best if you put it over your eyes, but don't do that when you're driving. Because the main thing here is the body heating up, and we know from the research that stimulating the body with cold can stimulate vagus nerve, which can calm that autonomic arousal down, and it cools the body down, right?
Can you
So
suck on an ice cube too? Would that work?
that would be so good. It's like before you get on the highway, get a cup of ice water.
Yeah.
That's what I used to do on flights, is I always ask the flight attendant for ice, a cup of ice.
Oh, that's brilliant. Never thought of it until
Yeah.
right this second, but wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Love that.
It's other things is, let's say that you get a sick, it's like sick to your stomach. That's how you panic attack. You're driving down the highway, you're flying in a plane, your heart's not pounding. You just literally feel like you're going to throw up. So what can we do for that is ginger is anti-nausea. And if you suck on a really, really strong ginger candy, your vagus nerve goes through the root of your tongue. This is called cranial nerve 10. And sour or ginger, really kind of powerful flavors, stimulate vagus nerve. And for those who are like, are you talking about the slot machines? What's this vagus?
There you go.
Vagus is your vagus nerve is your light switch into calm. And so,
Just really starting to learn more about this in the last, I don't know, 5, 10 years, maybe that I've
yeah,
known about it at least. It's kind of new. So a lot of people might actually have heard Vegas, like we said, but not slot machine. Right.
yeah,
And it travels, does it travel like all the way down
yeah.
Okay.
It goes all the way from the brain stem, so it's cranial nerve 10, and it goes all the way down, kind of near the mastoid in the side, down through your pharynx. So humming can be very anti-anxiety. If you have a kid who's anxious, put them in choir or have them hum. The
Oh,
vocalization, speaking your truth,
yeah.
gargling, and then it actually goes down and it terminates in the enteric nervous system, which is the nervous system that surrounds your gut. And that's how your gut talks to your brain, is it's
Right.
like an
It's all
elevator.
connected right in there. And they
Yeah.
talk about the gut brain, like it having its
Yeah.
does it have its own nervous system?
Yeah, the enteric nervous system
Oh,
is
well, that's
the
what it is.
nervous system of the gut. And those bacteria are very opinionated. We think, like, after we talk today, maybe you're going to have a little snack and you're like, I'm really craving some banana bread. No, you're not craving it. Your gut bacteria are craving it. And they're sending a signal
Are
to
they
your
trying to
brain.
fool me? Or are they trying to calm me? What are they trying to do?
They want to be happy and live their best lives. So, depending on who's in there, that could be good or that could be a problem.
So that's why we have cravings like that when we're stressed out, because that's feeding that like microbiome.
Exactly. And so so there's this whole field, it's called psychobiology, psychobiotics, where we know, oh, if our gut is healthy, it can make our brains and our moods healthy. If our gut is unhealthy, it will have mental, emotional brain changes. So they used to just be like, take all the probiotics you can, the highest dose, the most number of bacteria, and hope for the best. Sort of like throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. But there's so much research, and I love to recommend the book, The Psychobiotic Revolution by Anderson, Dinan, and Sion. And they have been looking over the last 10 years, as you said, at different specific bacteria in the gut that can balance our cortisol, that can balance our GABA, which is that neurotransmitter that makes us calm, that can balance our hormones. And so now we're like, okay, we have anxiety in the gut. And I feel like my brain can't focus. What bacteria might be out of balance, and how do I give that bacteria back to my body? The whole thing is just so cool. It's so much better than try to talk yourself out of it.
It's these physical tools that
Yeah.
actually make the difference. Like talking about it and me understand. And yes, it's very helpful. I don't want to
Yeah.
lead people. Creating a narrative was super helpful. Understanding all of that was super helpful. But you come to a point where you actually need these in the moment
Yeah.
tools, and identifying the root cause is going to be the most helpful, like you're saying. And this is why your book there's a framework for it. It's kind of divided into three parts. What panic is trying to tell you, right? Understanding its protective nature,
Yes.
and then being your own rescue person, being the one who
Yeah.
figures it out and applies these tools. You talked about a panic pack.
Yes. Panic
This
pack.
sounds like my kind of my sensory box that I have parents grab.
Yes.
What for to help their kids regulate because we don't want to just talk to them. We don't want to talk to them often in those moments.
Yeah.
We want to help them figure out what their bodies need. So
Yeah.
what exactly could we put in a panic pack? You talked about a couple of things,
Yeah.
but I want to hear more about what like things that with the ginger is great, things that we could suck on the ice we could bring with us.
Yeah.
What else could we put in this?
Anything that gets you back in brainstem. So in the neuroscience, I know we're coming towards the end here, so I'll try
Yeah,
to be brief,
I
but
know. This
I
is why
think
we're gonna have part two,
we'll
Becky.
have a part two. And this is, for me, this is why the book is so long, because I don't want to be just told, like, just do this. I want to know why.
Yeah.
I want it to make sense.
It's
So
so
that's why,
different for everyone.
yes, it's so different. And then we're like, oh, I get it. And we'll remember it because our amygdala is like, oh, this is important. I know why. So you want things that are going to stimulate the brainstem because when we get aroused, activated into that fight, flight, freeze state, is logical brain gets shut down. We don't want to analyze why the tiger's coming after us. We just want to fight, flight, freeze from that tiger, right? So things that bring us back into the body, into the present moment, are what is going to work in that situation. So these are going to be things that you can touch, textures. I like rocks. I like sharp rocks. I like worry stones. I like heavy rocks, cold rocks. I love fidgets for kids. They can pick their own fidgets, something that they could feel and touch and interact with. I also love tastes. I love sour. I love spicy. I love sweet. I love cinnamon. I love ginger. I love sour. So you can have your kiddo use a human can pick your flavor of your choice. I love Rescue Remedy. They come in little lozenges that you can get at the health food store. They're kind of
Yes, I've seen them
lemony.
in the drops too, right? They have yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. And it can work. I see it work for like 50% of people. And so, hey, that's as good as antidepressants. I'll take it.
And and try it because
Yeah.
what's the harm in trying?
Right, right. And then temperature is really important. So, like a cold pack that you might put in a first aid kit that you shake up, or maybe even a warm pack. Some people they turn to ice when they get panicky. So, you don't want to give them cold. They're more of a chilly anxious, like ice is in my veins. We'll give them a hot pack, a heating pack,
So interesting. My dad was always cold and very anxious.
so he would not have wanted a
He
cold
walked around
plunge.
with the blanket and like all the time. He just had,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, towards the back of the book, and I'm sure you saw this, you'll learn about Ayurveda. And Ayurveda is a traditional way of understanding health from India. It's older than traditional Chinese medicine. It's over 2,000 years old. Research is constantly proving what Ayurveda has told us is right for years. So it's really cool. And so he probably was more of a chilly, anxious, maybe Vata Kapha constitution and would have benefited from a lot of warming treatments.
Yes, it makes so much sense. It's so
Other things you could put in your panic pack would be smell. And so you might, for kids, maybe put a couple of drops of essential oil that they like in a cotton ball in a Ziploc.
love it.
Or you can get them like if they have like a little, just like anything that they like the smell of. Like
And
smell can be
can smell
huge.
be too dysregulating? I've heard and I'm not sure if was just like maybe yes for some people. Is that kind of just a personal preference, or can it actually dysregulate us more?
It could be a personal preference. And I love the nuance of your question because if you get nervous anxiety and the nervous system is hyper raw and overstimulated, so like noise is too light and sound is too loud and smell is too strong, then you're probably going to want to do more touch grounding based,
Okay.
calming, slow, soothing. And so that's a really, really good point is like experimenting. And
Yes.
then the last thing that I would incorporate into the panic pack would be something that has to do with sound, whether it's earplugs, like get out your headphones, get your earplugs, get stick them in there, we're overstimulated, or maybe a little bit of music like binaural beats or white noise, or maybe even some people heavy metal calms them down. It just depends on the person. So what music might help
So
you feel?
interesting that it.
It's the beauty of how unique we all are is we get to be precise and personal and empowered. So instead of, and I really want to mention, I'm not opposed to medications. In fact, Lexapro truly saved my life. And so I think there's a time and place for medications. And I have a master's in talk therapy. So I believe in talk therapy. And I also believe above all is our personal agency. Kids want agency, adults want agency. Agency is the antidote to anxiety. And so, as we familiarize ourselves with our body and what works for us and what we need to heal and how we need to heal it, and creating our dream team and our amazing resources, that's how we can actually truly overcome anxiety. Anxiety is not a part of the human experience. Anxiety is a stuck adaptive pattern that is paired with a sense of disempowerment. And once we take off those coats in Florida, and once we recalibrate those patterns and we feel like I've got this, no matter what happens, I know I can handle it, then we're no longer anxious. And that's what this conversation really truly is all about, is how we can do that, treating every single human as an individual.
I love this. I want to thank you so much for just sharing your wealth of knowledge. I know that we have to go because I could totally I could just keep going. There's so many things that I want to ask you about, but I'm just so grateful. This is really life-changing information for me, for the people that are listening. Just hearing you give us permission, and not that we need to give people permission, I don't mean it that way, but to hear it feels good sometimes. We do need to hear it from someone outside of ourselves to say that what our bodies are doing is what they learn to do to help us, and we can help ourselves, like taking control of, and not giving it to doctors, not giving away our power
Yeah.
to let them say, oh, it's all in your head, just take this, you'll be fine. Or just go to therapy. Keep investigating is a
Yeah.
really important message that I'm taking away today, to
Oh,
just keep looking for that root cause and don't let yourself think that you're broken or that you're just not fixable. There's nothing to fix. There's only things that we can grow new ways to adapt, is what I'm hearing.
yes. I felt that in my heart. I felt that in my body. Yes, sister. Truly.
Oh, I love it. I would need that. I love it. This was just such a great conversation for me because like I said, I have lots of
Yeah.
anxiety experience over the years, and the more I learn, the more I'm able to get in touch with my body, know
Yeah.
what my body is saying, know what my
Yeah.
body is doing. I feel so empowered, and
Oh, that's
just know that's what
awesome.
we're giving everyone. So, Dr. Nicole Cain, everybody, thank you so, so much for joining me. I will definitely be ringing your email up and talking to your team to hopefully you'll come back and share more with us, because like I said, this book, you guys, it's a manual. It's not small. It's huge. There's so many ways to dive into it. Like you don't even have to start at the beginning. You could, maybe you want to take some of the quizzes, or maybe you want to look, like you said, it's, oh, look, I opened right to it. Got anxiety soother for each dosha.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to investigate some of the resources that are in the back. It's so much. It's so easy to read. It's going to be on my night table, I can tell you that. Thank you again. Everybody can find you drnicolecane.com.
That's right. And my Instagram. And you and I hang out on Instagram. It's Dr. Nicole Cain.
Yes, awesome. It's so lovely, lovely, wonderful to meet you.
Thank you, Laura. This has been awesome.
Awesome. You have a great day, and we will talk very soon. All right. And everybody else, remember, conscious, not perfect.